This is Coffee, Country, and Cody.
Welcome in here from our Magnolia Lobby studio for a few more days before we make the transition to our new state-of-the-art radio and television home, the home of Roy Acuff, the Acuff House on the Opry Plaza. That's where we're going. We've got a little temporary stop in our production studio at the E.W. Bud Wendell building, and all these things are falling into place. This studio was created by E.W. Bud Wendell, our CEO at the time. And that was 1984. He brought Charlie Douglas in to start the Music Country Radio Network. 1984 is also the year Mr. Acuff moved into the Acuff House.
How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so 40 years here. I've been here for 30 of them. Charlie for 20 of them. Kelly for like 13 minutes.
3.
3 years.
Is it 3? Yeah. I started in 2021.
Or
so
5 minutes
September.
underwater.
Yeah.
About the same.
Feels like 12, but I've been here for 3.
Welcome in. And Jeff Roberts is in master control there at the Grand Ole Opry House making it happen this morning. Annie Nye, our studio director. There's Charlie Mattos. And there's Kelly Sutton.
Yeah.
And I'm going to the Opry in a little while with Carly Pierce tonight. I'm going to do a sit-down, little interview after the Opry. And she's doing something, Charlie pointed out, something unique in tonight's show.
Yeah, two sets, an acoustic and a full band, which is really cool.
That is cool.
I know I've never worked a show with that.
Is it different halves?
Yeah,
like she's first half, second half?
I don't want to book the show. Somewhere Gina Keltner is saying thank you, but no thank you. But
Okay.
I believe so.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's very cool.
And we're going to the Opry with Chase Rice here in a little bit, doing Key West and Colorado.
Oh.
That'll happen in the next 10 minutes or so.
Okay.
And then I got emailed yesterday regarding, speaking of the transition to the Acuff House, about the 70s at Opryland USA and a former employee sharing Mr. Acuff stories. I want to read that.
Oh, that's very cool.
Thank you in advance to Karen Moore for dropping a note.
Yeah. All right. Entertainment headlines. House fire at Carrie Underwood's place. Everybody's okay, but we're going to tell you more about that. Plus, a pop-up show at the Bluebird. I didn't know about this, but apparently Post Malone and Lainey Wilson getting together to do some duets over at the Bluebird Cafe. So I've got more information and video from that coming up.
And CGP, that's what Chet Atkins would call you if you were good enough on a guitar.
Right.
Certified guitar picker. We welcome CGP John Knowles to Coffee, Country, and Cody this morning.
Oh, it sure is good to be here.
You said a full circle moment and every 100 yards of memory on the way over.
I know it. Everything from construction to music.
You were 11 when you got your first guitar, I read. And by 13, you discover Chet Atkins.
That's right.
And you were in Houston as a child?
In Houston at the time, yeah. I bought an album that was like, the vinyl album like in the day. And I got home and realized our record player wouldn't play that. So I played it at the neighbor's house for about a week. And then I went out and bought a turntable to go with my Chet Atkins album.
And the neighbors pitched in and bought him a turntable.
That's right. They were about to.
You can go home now.
They didn't buy a speaker for it, though, because they didn't want it coming out everywhere.
Yes.
So when do you meet Chet?
Well, I met him in Dallas backstage at a symphony rehearsal. And I had some students who wanted to meet him. I said, well, I'll go introduce myself. And so I did. And he said, John Knowles. He said, so-and-so told me, didn't you? And he started playing some of my stuff. And I thought, what? And later I found out he always had his ear to the ground. And somebody had run into him and said, there's this guy in Dallas. And so he handed me his guitar, backstage at the rehearsal and said, show me what you're working on. And I had just seen that movie, The Sting, and I was trying to figure out how to play The Entertainer. And he said, I think that's going to be the hit. And he said, finish that up and send it to me.
That's a Marvin Hamlish piece, right? Hamlish.
It's an old Scott Joplin rag. Hamlish arranged it for the movie.
Okay.
And so what I did is I walked out of the movie and into the music store and bought the Easy Big Note, how to play the music, and got busy. And when I started, and I had to send it to Chet, of course, I found out how hard it was to play. And but he recorded, and actually I called him about 2 weeks later, and I said, do you need me to send you anything else? He said, yeah, I recorded that one. What else have you got? And I thought, oh my, I had no idea he was operating at that level. So I sent him 2 or 3 other movie themes, and it turned into an album. And then we did a book with the album. Before long, I couldn't see any reason to stay in Dallas.
Well, I want people to know that we still can't say goodbye. A musician's tribute to Chet, collector's edition, the orange double vinyl. It's available, the vinyl and DVD, at the Opry shop. Simply go to shop.opry.com. And if you will use the code CHET, that's CHET, CHET, you get $10 off vinyl for the rest of June. The documentary is airing on CMT, streaming on CMT through July.
You know, the hours that you had to have spent in your room learning how to master guitar at that level. There had to be others that you were also trying to emulate. I mean, Chet is the high watermark, but were there other people that you were hearing them and you're like, oh, I'm going to practice that a little bit too?
Well, you know, the first thing was like Arthur Godfrey was on the radio then playing the ukulele.
Okay.
And Les Paul and Mary Ford were on the radio, so I was aware of them. And I would buy, 78s and wear them out and at least get to where I could play along. But then I heard Chet, and I had played the accordion as a kid, so I could kind of hear the oompa oompa part in his thumb. So I thought, I know what he's doing, but I don't know how he's doing it. And I just started wearing out the vinyl. And I'd fall asleep every night. The last thing I heard going to sleep every night was ka-chuk, 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 from the needle hitting the label.
And you mentioned the thumb, and immediately I think about names like Mose Rager.
Yep.
And Merle Travis. And of
that
course,
all comes from a really rich tradition. And at some
Ike
point,
Everly.
Oh, Ike Everly. When Chet heard some of the stuff on the radio and didn't know how it was happening. And so he kind of tried to, like me, invent it without seeing it. And later on, he meets everybody and learns what they're really doing. But I heard him say one time, thank goodness I didn't know what they were doing, or I might have copied them. And there is that,
And John Prine had that lick.
John Prine comes from there, yeah.
He said he didn't realize until decades later he had learned it wrong. He was missing a lick in there somewhere, which created a whole new sound for him that nobody else had done.
Wow. Yeah, I found out one of the values I had working with Chet was that I couldn't duplicate what he was doing, but I knew what he was doing, so I could write books and do things like that. So I was kind of the education wing, and but the fact that I came up with things a little different, he would steal from me too. So it was really fun, in that way.
What was he like as a person?
The very first time I met him, I really went backstage thinking I would get his autograph, and within about 10 minutes, he had. Oh, yeah. And he hands me his guitar, and he wants me to show him what I'm working on. And we walked out of there, and my student said to me, man, you just played for Chet Atkins. And no, that was Chet Atkins. That was you. You played. They had to tell me that I had done that. Chet put me so at ease. And I realized later, as a producer, that's one of his big skills. Because here he is, he's a Hall of Famer, he's all this stuff. Here comes a new artist, and he's got to put them in their music place.
I saw him on a television special once play a solo that was out of this world, and the audience kind of mildly applauded. And he leans into the mic and goes, I'm a low-key act.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He had a zillion of those.
And the audience, then they just roared,
I think he might have been Mark Twain in another life.
Yeah.
More Coffee, Country, and Cody is on WSM.
John Knowles is here, Grammy Award winner, Emmy Award winner, National Thumb Pickers Hall of Fame 20 years ago, class 2004, and a CGP in 1996 from Chet Atkins, whom we are featuring this morning.
And I have gotten used to adding that whenever Tommy Emmanuel is at the Opry, whenever Steve Wariner is at the Opry. But I'm curious now, what was the origin of Chet coming up with, this is how I am going to honor those I love?
I think originally it was a way to kind of rename himself as he was changing from country to look out for a wider audience. He was Chester Atkins and his galloping guitar, and he was Mr. Guitar, and all those things sounded country. And so he came up with CGP, and we all asked him, what does that stand for? He said, well, it could be something, And so we started guessing, and one of us guessed certified guitar player. He said, yeah, that might be it. Well, he told me later it was country guitar picker. But he was going to use it like it was a moniker, like a degree he got from Harvard.
Yeah. Well, definitely.
That's that sense of humor, but also that marketing savvy, So it gave him a whole new place on it in his career,
Well, who are the fellow members of that CGP status?
Well, the first one was himself, and he gave one, which was a little statue to Jerry Reed, and he said, if you start playing with the flat pick, I'm going to take it back. And I was the second one, but he called it the first one. But mine looks like a college diploma. Whereas, therefore, by the authority I've given myself, and then Tommy was for work he had done to kind of, for all of fingerstyle guitar, to make it big. And then Steve Warner, he gave him one, and actually they were both up for, I think, a gold record somewhere, and Chet won it. So Chet gave it to Steve along with a CGP designation. And then after Chet's death, his family awarded one to Paul Yandel, who was just there throughout. It's hard to imagine Chet's career without Paul plugged in the other input on the amp, So
Didn't Susie Boggess make it in an honorary capacity or something somewhere along the way?
For a while, it's possible. But Chet and I did an instructional video, and as part of the promotion, we gave out pins. So there's a lot of people with one of those pins. So it's kind of informally, you could practice and be a CGP, but the formal designation is just the 6 of us. So.
And John Knowles is here, featured on the new album, We Still Can't Say Goodbye, a musician's tribute to Chet Atkins, collector's edition, orange double vinyl and DVD, available at the Opry shop, shop.opry.com. This Thursday would have been Chet's 100th birthday. And if you use the code CHET, C-H-E-T, $10 off. You'll get $10 off at shop.opry.com, and that continues through June. The documentary that came from Opry Entertainment, actually, is on CMT streaming through July.
If you're a vinyl fan, it's a beautiful pressing. That orange looks great. It's a gatefold cover. It's a double vinyl. It's really beautiful. Well done.
The commemorative booklet, The Journey of Mr. Guitar, Robert K. Orman. Liner notes by award-winning music journalist Holly Gleason. And session notes by Grammy Award-winning producer, we referenced him earlier, the great Carl Jackson.
Man, I tell you, I got the call from Carl, and I just thought I was going to record a track. And then I saw this thing grow, and then I saw the package, and I thought, holy smoke, I'm part of something here. It's really a beautiful venture to put the whole thing together. And to be on it with everybody like this, of course, it's not everybody. It would have to be a 30-record set, But Carl put together a really good group who loved Chet and worked with him and represented him well.
Is there a song on here, other than the ones that you got to play on, that sticks out as one of your favorites to listen to?
I really liked the We Still Can't Say Goodbye that Vince Gill does. Because I still remember the day that Chet did that song for the first time on live TV without telling the band.
What?
And he looks over there, and there's Larry London, with tears, and all the musicians are listening to that song and just crying, And he did that on purpose. It was an HBO special, I think is what it was, and later Chet referred to that song as a tearjerker of industrial strength.
Wow.
Well, Tommy Emmanuel and Michael Cleveland.
Yes.
Thor Jensen, and on Alley Cat, I was looking here, Ashley Campbell, Glenn Campbell's daughter. I was just running this full list. Charlie McCoy and Ricky Skaggs, Carl Jackson, Brad Paisley, Guthrie Trapp, John Knowles and Catherine Marks, whom we heard earlier. The Chester Bees, which is a collection of everybody involved. Brent Mason, Eric Clapton, Vince Gill, Brian Sutton, Jerry Douglas, Gareth Pearson, James Taylor, Alison Krauss, Sierra Hull, and you mentioned Vince Gill with I Still Can't Say Goodbye. We'll close with that here in just a little bit.
That's a good one. Yeah.
I asked Chet once, "You the best?" And he said, "No, I'm the best known."
Yeah.
And he paused a minute. He said, "But I'll tell you who the most natural guitar player I ever heard." And I said, "Who?" He said, "Jerry Reed."
Yeah. Jerry was
You would
that
agree
way.
with that?
I had that same experience with him. There's some things when Jerry would do it, it would look like he was just born with his hands in that shape. And he did it mostly by kind of experimenting until he was, like every now and then he would tuck this finger in and play with a thumb and these two. Nobody does that. Well, Jerry did it. And I remember one time I was going to write a book of how to play some of Jerry's tunes. So I said, "Well, you're going to show me how?" "No, I ain't going to show you nothing." He said, "You figure them out and I'll tell you if you're wrong." So that's how we did that book,
John, thanks for a delightful visit this morning. We appreciate you getting up early and coming to
you
see
bet.
us. And featured on We Still Can't Say Goodbye, a musician's tribute to Chet Atkins. And once again, the collector's edition, the orange double vinyl, and the DVD available at the Opry shop, shop.opry.com right now. 100th birthday would be this Thursday for Chet. And you can use the code Chet, get $10 off. Shop.opry.com. That's through the month of June for that code. And then CMT streaming the documentary through the month of July. Good morning. This is from Catherine Moore yesterday. I worked at Opryland USA the summers of 75, 76, 77. I worked the popcorn and Coke cart right outside of the theater by the lake where they performed Country Music USA. That was Gary Harrison, Dean Dillon, Cynthia Rose. They were some of the future stars there. Mr. Acup's house was not built yet, but he would walk the park constantly. I don't know if he did this to everybody, but he frequently would come up to our cart and the conversation would go something like this. Have you had your break? Are they giving you enough breaks? Do I need to go get your boss and tell him to give you a break? You drinking enough water? Etc. He was such a nice man. And the best part was when he walked away and my coworkers all looked so confused. I would have to explain to them that I was talking to Mr. Acuff. He's one of my favorite memories from Opryland.
Oh.
And I used to also see him walking around Rivergate Mall, too. Enjoy your new studio, longtime listener, Hendersonville's Karen Moore.
Oh, Karen. You know what that reminds me of? Disney. When Disney would walk around Walt Disney World and people would talk to him and just how much he loved and cared about the park and all the people in it. That is so cool.
Yeah.
We need him as our union rep.
Really?
I could use
Giving you a break?
You know, man, I've worked
Drinking enough coffee?
upwards of 2 hours this morning. You know?
And, I want to go back. We still can't say goodbye. A musician's tribute to Chet Atkins. One name I left off, I ran that list of everybody participated, was Bradley Walker with Eric and Vince, Eric Clapton and Vince Gill on So Sad to Watch Good Love Go Bad. Bradley Walker's on there. So I wanted to mention that.
All right, well, surprise, surprise, the Bluebird is back, y'all. Now, it had some damage, storm damage, actually, where the roof was blown off, and I know Erica, who runs the Bluebird, she was trying to get things fixed, and they are back because they had a big hoedown in the middle of the Bluebird Cafe, and it was none other than Post Malone, Lainey Wilson, and Ashley Gorley. Woo! I had some help. That is Post Malone. Now, that is the song that he did with Morgan Wallen. It is #1 on the Billboard 100 again. 5 weeks, and that is all genre. So he is like fighting off Sabrina Carpenter, who my daughter is listening to a lot these days, and some other big names. But yeah, congratulations, Post Malone, and thank you for stopping by the Bluebird, and Lainey Wilson helping out there. Hit songwriter Ashley Gorley. More hit songs, by the way, than any other songwriter in the history of the world.
75, right? 75?
He might be 76 by now. I think every morning he wakes up and he's like, let's see. Oh, I got another #1.
You know, yesterday, Moose Brown was in here.
Yeah.
And he's so modest and easygoing. He's played on like 40 #1 records.
Oh,
Been
yeah.
a part of 41. He's played on, written.
Easily.
That's a bunch.
That's a bunch. That's crazy. I know. Let's talk about Miranda Lambert. She's got this new video out, y'all. She likes to set stuff on fire. We know that. We had, let's see. Let's go through the titles. Kerosene. We remember that one. Gunpowder and Lead. That was a good one. Ain't Your Mama's Broken Heart. I don't think she set anything on fire, but she did cut her own bangs. So that, again, is like, that's up there. As a woman, you just don't do that. I did ask Miranda when we were in Texas, have you actually burned a pair of Wranglers? And she goes, how did you think I would come up with a song like this? Of course I've done it. And they do take a long time to burn because they are very well made. Okay, last but not least, Carly Pierce. Full circle moment. This girl got to play at Rupp Arena where she first went 18 years ago to see her favorite artist, John Mayer. Take a look.
So when I was 16 years old, I drove with my best friend Kara down to Rupp Arena in Lexington, Kentucky to see John Mayer. And we sat right here in these seats. And here she is. Here's Kara. Yes, we sat right here, didn't we? Yep. And tonight, for the very first time, 18 years later, I am playing Rupp Arena.
How?
So we had to come back up and see what it felt like to sit back over here again. So pretty crazy, guys.
Full circle moment. She's with you at the Opry tonight.
You can afford those tickets for a John Mayer concert. You can't afford them for a UK basketball game.
You know that's right.
You're on Coffee, Country, and Cody as we head to a break from WSM Radio and then all over the world. It's our Circle streaming platforms at circlecountry.com. If I interrupt the off-air conversation.
I'm sorry. We have a lot to catch up on. We haven't seen each other.
You were momming?
Yeah. That's how we do.
Rissi Palmer, Miko Marks. Welcome back to Coffee, Country, and Cody.
Thank you, Cody.
And welcome to Nashville. And the CMA Theater is sold out tonight. From Where I Stand, the Black Experience in Country Music, and the overview from the Hall of Fame's website, and you can follow up on this, is in 1998, the Hall and Museum released From Where I Stand, the Black Experience in Country Music, a CD box set documenting the many, many ways that Black Americans have created, contributed to, and been influenced by country music. 26 years later, back at the Hall of Fame, From Where I Stand has returned as a multifaceted initiative. It encompasses the expanded box set, an online experience, and an all-star concert celebration tonight. And there you are, front and center. You want to run the lineup of fellow artists who are there?
Yeah, we have, let's see, it's Tony Jackson. We have, thank you so much.
Warren Treaty.
And mind you, I am a co-producer on this, and I'm like, who's on the damn show?
It's a lot of people.
No, it's Blanco Brown, Cowboy Troy, Tony Jackson, Hubby Jenkins, Wendy Moten. Of course, Darius is there, very excited. The Warren Treaty, Barron's Whitfield, Miko Marks, and myself.
Yay!
And Shannon Sanders is my co-producer and music director for this. So it's really amazing.
Well, let's talk about the collective experiences that you guys have with country music in your lives, and individually as well.
Collectively, Rissi has been, she's been my, what do you call that?
Co-conspirator.
Co-conspirator now. Co-conspirator now, but she was my rival when we first started. I was like, oh no, it's not going to just be me. Well, fast forward with maturity and growing up and living life, it can be everybody. And so it's just such a beautiful thing. This is one of my bestest friends now. And to be able to do this with her, and she's always looking out for me. She's like, hey, I'm doing this thing. You want to do it? And I'm like, yeah, I want to do it. It's always how it is.
It really is like that.
Wasn't that the case with the Opry?
Yes,
That was the case with the
that was the
Opry.
case. And so this is just yet another way of doing us and doing the thing that we like to do, but also celebrating these artists that have gone on, that placed their footprint on country music industry, and to be a part of this box set is amazing. Like, my song's from 2007, so it's old.
But I think back, D. Ford Bailey famously
Yes.
was the first, and then Charlie Pride came into our lives, and a fellow that is often overlooked that was wonderful and died much too young, O.B. McClinton.
O.B. McClinton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Stoney Edwards.
Yeah.
I mean, you could go on and on. Barbara Cooper, Ruby Falls, Lenora Ross.
Herb Edwards.
Yeah.
The Bronze Buckaroo.
Yes, sir. I mean, there's so many. I mean, and then, we talk about musicians. There's Arnold Schultz, and then there's Gus Cannon, and just so many different, Rufus T-Top Payne, and just all these different musicians, songwriters, singers that influenced a lot of the icons of country music. So, for me, this experience has been, I don't know, like for the last 5 years, part of what I've tried to do with my career is acknowledge people that came before me and make sure that we say their names, because your spirit doesn't live on, your legacy doesn't live on if people don't say your name. So I want to make sure that people that laid the foundation so that we could walk, so that this next generation could run, that they're acknowledged. And like, this is a big part of that. So I'm really excited about being this.
The 2024 edition of From Where I Stand, the Black Experience in Country Music adds, there's a fourth disc now to the box set. And so these emerging artists that you reference, these names that are new to some people.
It's actually us. Like, so we're the last, when I say us, I mean like artists like Miko Marks, myself, Mickey Guyton, Darius is on this, Blanco is on this, Breland is on this, the Warren Treaty, Wendy Moten is on this record, Tony Jackson is on this record, Kane Brown is on this record. Yeah, so it's like it's a retrospective of, I believe, the last 20 years. So, the exciting thing is that, there's enough artists now and so much music now that there could be a fifth disc in 10 years. So it's a very cool thing, a cool time.
And I wanted to add to that, the online experience is a free educational resource, and this is going to be available to educators to use in the classroom. All of the sets, music, essays, photographs, historical track notes, as well as supplemental content from the museum's archive, which just makes it an extraordinary teaching tool.
It is.
Yeah, you guys referenced Tubby Jenkins. I've never met him, but I'm working the Opry with him on Friday. So looking forward to that. Yeah.
No, it's going to be, he's phenomenal. I got to see him at the Fort Worth African American Roots Music Festival a couple years ago, and he's absolutely phenomenal. He's going to be playing solo tonight, so that's gonna be
very
really
cool.
You know, we had a moment, this CMA Music Fest, and I wasn't there, but I watched the videos later. To watch somebody like Shabuzi, who is brand new, who's coming out of the box, and he is on an outside stage, and to see the crowd stretch
That was wild.
all the way down. It is so impactful to see somebody where, and I talked to him when we were at Stagecoach, and he said, you know, I wasn't sure where I was going to fit in. And now to see that he was that embraced and that loved, it is wonderful to see the groundwork that's been laid, that now all of these new artists are like, oh yeah, I can do country. This is a place for me. I can find a place for me. And there's still a lot more to do.
Country music has a black fan base. It does. And in order to reach that fan base, the industry has to be inclusive of those people. And so it's nice to see things, Shabuzi, Tanner Adele, all Brittany Spencer, all these Raina Roberts, all these people making their way and having an audience of their peers.
Brittany Spencer is a force.
Yes. Yes.
What girl is doing the thing.
What'd you guys think of the Beyonce record? Because you mentioned Brittany, you mentioned Raina, Tierra Kennedy was all featured on that too.
And Tierra, I think that it was a cultural moment. I think it was a really big cultural moment, and I think that it was a great place to start the conversation. Like, I don't think the conversation ends
with
the
sure.
record, and I think it's a great place to start. And if you like this, because I feel like the record was a great representation of American music, period. Like, because there's opera on it, there's rock and roll on it. Like, there was some songs that felt very Tina and that sort of thing. So I think it encompassed a lot more than just country. But I think for someone who's never been a country music fan or did not think they were a country music fan, it was a great place to start. And like, you got a nice jumping off point to get off into some other artists that may, you know, if you like this, then you might like Willie Jones, or you may like Shabuzi, or you may like the girls. So
So we talked about your collective history as it relates to country music. Talk about your individual history, your backgrounds. Catch people up who may not know you or are meeting you for the first time this morning.
Well, I'm like a lot of artists. I grew up on country music in addition to gospel and blues. But my grandma, she realized I could sing at like 3 years old, and she started feeding me Patsy Cline, Loretta Lynn, Dolly Parton, Waylon Jennings. She started feeding me Charlie Pride, and so I was young.
Was this in Michigan?
This was young, Flint, Michigan.
Flint, Michigan, growing up. Yeah.
And my grandmother was from Mississippi, and what happened was she migrated north for the automotive jobs, but she brought that music with her. She brought those stories and she shared them with me, and I just so happened to take to country more so than I did any other genre, even though I did other things.
That's a good Southern phrase, by the way.
What?
I took to country.
I took to country.
I can hear my mother using that
Yeah.
phrase,
Yeah,
referencing something that she liked. Yeah, I took to it.
I've been on this road a long time, and it's nice to be here with y'all and doing this box set from where I stand and having that be acknowledged. So it's just it's been a journey, but it's been a fun one.
How about you, Rissi?
I mean, you know, it all started on a very warm day in August. I've been listening to country music. Again, I grew up on country music as well, and gospel.
But you were born in Pittsburgh, though,
I was
right?
born in Swickley, Pennsylvania, which is right outside of Pittsburgh. It's a very, very small town.
But Carolina
like an island.
Comes into play in your family,
Well,
right?
so what ended up happening was, first of all, both my parents are from Georgia, and so I spent most of my childhood between Missouri, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. And I moved to North Carolina when I got married.
Okay.
And when What's that? 2010. And
24 years.
And I've been there ever since. I've been I have 2 kids there and love it there. But like I grew up listening to country, and I loved country in addition to pop and R&B and gospel. And so a lot of my sound kind of encompasses all those things, but I just loved the songwriting. I loved Patsy Cline. I love Winona, like love the Judds and that sort of thing. And so like that's what I grew up listening to, and I don't know, it spoke to me, and it always has.
And being in North Carolina, you're immersed. It's the capital, bluegrass.
I know. Like
Yeah.
we have IBMA in our
Yeah,
backyard.
sure do.
Like literally. And so
Yeah.
it's
Used to
nice.
be here and moved to Raleigh, and they
I
won't
know.
they won't let
And
us
they
have
won't
it back.
come back.